Hello everyone and welcome to Lush and Salty Aquariums. My name is Stefan and thank you for coming to the channel and for your support in general. So this is my 135 gallon display tank. I've got the doors open top and bottom because I want to maybe talk about things top and bottom, and especially the tank itself. I had some issues with this aquarium in terms of the nitrogen cycle. I lost some fish. And I think I finally have corrected for my problem, which was jumping the cycle. I went too fast with everything. I was just so excited. And even though I've been doing this for years, you get excited, you get impulsive, you go to a swap, you buy a bag of fish, it's too many fish, their tank isn't ready for the fish. Anyway, all that happened. But I think I've got things dialed in. And if I didn't have two hands on the camera, I'd be knocking on wood, because it's heartbreaking when you have a couple losses, and it's even worse when you know it's your fault and you can kind of pinpoint what you did wrong. Me, it was jumping the nitrogen cycle, as I've said before. But that's the bad news. It's all good now. Again, knock on wood. So let's take a look, all right? The plants, which were never growing as vigorously as I thought they would, probably because I was using more inert substrate, i.e. sand and gravel, than I ever have before. There is substrate, UNS soil and lava rock for capturing bacteria and helping with the plant roots and dispersing nutrients to the plants, more or less to the center, left and right, back underneath this fabulous hardscape, which has been completely denuded of algae, filamentous, hair algae, all of it gone. And I attribute that to all the invertebrates I have in here, a mono shrimp and two voracious algae eaters. There's one right there. I am going to catch those algae eaters out of the tank because they're fin nippers, and I think they harassed a couple of my angelfish, which were already weakened from nitrate poisoning, a slow kind of lethargic death, and so the fin nipping took them out. And I don't need those two fish in the tank anymore, and so what I'm gonna do, and I'm gonna have a video about this. I bought an extraordinary trap from a guy named Nick in Colorado. It's called Tank Mates, M-A-T-E-Z, and go look him up, because the innovation, you know, it's simple stuff, but no one did it before him. And I have one of his traps. It's not in the tank right now because I wanted to film. I probably should have left it in so you guys could see or be titillated by it, but that's for another video. I want to talk about livestock, maybe touch on this sump here, the things I'm doing in that. You know, one of the issues I had with the sump in the early going, I tried to do so much with it, right? Immersed plants, emerging plants, submerged substrates, and everything on top of all the sponges that I'm running, and the biomedia. I maybe had more biomedia than I needed. As part of my rush to everything, I pretty much loaded this sucker up from Jump Street, and I probably should have just done the sponges, the biomedia, and maybe even not started the refugium until later. But again, all in the past. I've got water Sprite that's now dominating the refugium. Now that'll pull nitrates from the water and act as a natural filter. Did I need to put a tank inside a tank? I don't know. I keep wondering if that was the best move, but I rooted the water Sprite in there to anchor it, if nothing else. And at this point, it sort of doesn't matter because it's everywhere. I also have a Two Little Fishies 150, that's this reactor here. And after all sorts of different permutations, I've elected to put in the NPS biopellets to help me remove nitrate from the water. Will it work? It's not 100% certain because you have to be careful with this. At first I thought they had to be much more moving, but two little fishies actually told me on an email exchange that it needs to work more as an anaerobic filter for nitrate removal, so lower flow is better, which you see there now. And it'll take some time, and it's really only just a fraction of what I'm using to remove nitrates from the water. Why I had so many nitrates? Well, I jumped the cycle and put too much fish in the tank at once, which just created a hurry up offense that ran itself into the ground. But I have that in the two little fishies reactor. We'll see how it works. I have the water sprite. I have this Hydrophilia Aquarium bosa growing wonderfully fast and hard in these great little cups I got at the container store that mount to the side, and you can see the roots coming heavily out of both of those, and they will reach and get into that substrate. It happened already, and I cut them back. I've got some other random plants in here, but nothing that bears too much discussion. That's the big Sichet motor that drives the water up and back into the aquarium. And in this little chamber, I've got some peat granules from Fluval to help me lower the pH. My pH was coming out of the tap at about 7.4, and here in Chicago, give or take, and I wanted it below 7, 6.9, 6.8 ideally. So I'm doing all I can. And my readings are now at about 6.8. Certainly not higher than 7, and that makes me super happy because I'm trying to keep cichlids, i.e. angelfish and rams and other denizens that appreciate more acidic water. Here I added a nitrate pad from Aquarium amidst your standard floss. I like to use the kind with the blue top. It seems to be a little bit better. It's not that expensive relative to the big bags of floss, but yet it's not super expensive like those individual sheets at Petco. Then I've got, and you can't see it, but I've got coarse, medium, and fine sponges, and they're sitting atop egg crate, which I'm balancing on PVC. It's important to have a space below so that there's water flow underneath and you don't create a toxic accumulation. And so I was at least smart enough to do that. I've added an auto top off system from F-Zone. It works like a charm, this little pump and the rig they give you. It really works well, and I've got it on a few of my tanks now so that if I were to leave for a few days, the evaporation, which is considerable on this tank, would not become problematic. And I found a trigger separate reservoir that more or less matches size and color scheme of the Sump, so I was able to keep my nerdish obsession in check. That's the CO2. It's a 5-gallon cylinder. I've got the dual valve. I think that's the UNS system. It works so well, and I've got it on either side. I've talked about this before. A big tank like this, one CO2 diffuser would not be enough, maybe, but I didn't want to bother trying, and I had this plan of just splitting the 5-gallon cylinder one side here on the right with this big Jardley diffuser, which seems to be working great. And we snap zoom over here, and there's the other one, and you can see it's showing dark green, which is close to what you want, right? Give or take. You don't want yellow and you don't want blue. And the plants and everything else seems to be responding with gusto. What a beautiful view, right? I mean, I used to have a saltwater tank in here, and that was a showstopper. And everyone says freshwater is, almost, kinda, sorta, maybe. But I don't know. Given I can keep my hands in the tank here and I don't need any help to do all of this, because I was able to master freshwater, some lessons learned the hard way, but over the years, and I can do this all by myself. I don't need help, and I certainly don't need jugs of RODI water being delivered or any salinity issues and bioreactors. I mean, that two little fishes reactor, I don't even need that. I could just take it out. So All right, livestock, touched on it. I've got, angelfish were the bane. I bought some beautiful angelfish online from a breeder, and I lost a lot of those as part of the disappointment. And so I got a hardier but less exotic strain here, just black, some veal, some straight high fins. These are $10 fish and some less than that, and I've got 5 now, and they're doing all right. I wanted Pinoy and Philippine blue and all these exotics. Well, I had some, they didn't make it, so here I am. And you could tell with these fish that they're not going to get lethargic and sort of sit there. They're following this camera around. I've got 10 Bosemani rainbow fish that I bought from Primetime Aquatics at a swap. Thank you, Jason. And they're juveniles, just starting to show that half color. That whole backside will become completely yellow with time, and they'll get much bigger. They're wonderful schoolers. I'm super delighted. I've got cardinal tetras, maybe a group of about 24, 30, and usually they school tightly together, but right now I've fed the fish, and I'm going to feed them for you as well. The latest addition, I've got a bunch of these classic Harlequin Rasboras. Now, I have the lamb chops in the other tank, but this is a hardier, bigger strain, and I found a group at a good price at a good LFS, and so I bought them. They seem to be going kind of nutty right now. Usually they're in tight schools and they're ripping front and center. But as I said, I put a lot of baby brine in this tank, and so they could be reacting to that. Now I'm gonna dump what's left of some frozen brine shrimp into the tank, and we're gonna just see some feeding behavior. Now bear in mind, these fish have already eaten, but how beautiful is that? That's what it's all about, just a healthy, vigorous ecosystem. I've got 4 Bolivian rams. There's 2 sparring right there. I bought those juvenile at a swap. They like warm water, as do angelfish. And I've always wanted rams. I had started with 2 electric blue Acaras, but they were part of the early Jump the Cycle Death Race 2000 that I created. Here's a couple plecos. One's an albino and one's a lemon, both short fin. I've got others. There's another, I think that's an albino, and here's a super red. Now from my last video, you could tell, and that's a nice fish, but the one that I have in my other tank is abnormally super red. So look at the video before this if you want to see the reddest super red pleco you've ever seen in your life, which I got at Ocean Design Aquarium on northwest side of Chicago. There's a mystery snail. I like mystery snails because you can find them and you can count them, and if you want to raise the young, there's a fun way to do it, or you don't have to and you won't get a million of them. But they're, for such a big, cumbersome looking object, as you study them, you realize how graceful and kind of majestic and magical they are. And then, of course, they clean the crap out of your tank, right, off the glass and off the substrate. As voracious as Corydoras in terms of substrate. Now I've got, at last count, about 25 young Adolphus or Adolphi Corydora catfish. I see a bunch in the back that you can't. I'll find some. These have become more affordable and easier to get. They have the orange saddle. There's one there. There you see some Amano shrimp and some Otocinclus, and there's that other Plecostomus. And I have a bunch of those Adelphi. I want them to get, when they get big, they're really impressive. Everybody says that on these videos, oh, they'll color up and blah. Well, these are tiny, right? And a guy bred them, I think it was George or Jose at Nationwide Aquatics here in Chicago, and I bought a whole bag from him, and he brought them to the swap, and I took them home. And they're slow growing, right? And I guess that's good because it means I'll have them for a long time. But they're in there too. Now you see another Plecostomus doing his thing on the glass. everybody who's in this room. There's a couple of Delphi, right? And there's the cardinal tetra, the rainbow fish, the angelfish, I think 3 blacks and 2 regulars. One's a veal and one's a normal. Now, what strains or DNA these angelfish have, it might reveal themselves. You might start to get a lovely saddle on this one here. What I mean is the color on the shoulder there. It might be a little bit of like the Mancapuco strain, but it doesn't matter. I want them to live. Angelfish are stunning, and I stuck to my guns. I could have just aborted the whole angelfish concept when I was losing them and stuck with things like, I could have converted to a rainbow fish tank, but I opted not to do that. I wanted my angelfish before I even put water in this tank. And while I'm not getting the Altums, thank God, they all would have croaked immediately and I'd be out $800 for a dozen of those. Here's these $8, $10, $12 fish, and they seem super happy, and they are, and better be, and want, and I'm slurring my speech, I'm sorry. Sober as a priest, but I get excited. I want them to be the centerpiece for this tank. Despite having literally a centerpiece. I didn't talk about the plants at all, and I won't belabor this video to do that, other than I have veils, epiphytes, and crypts, all the classics. There's some of that water sprite that's in the Sump, and there's some really basic stem plant. These lights are Kessels. I wish I had 3. Because more light would mean better plant growth, and I could get some reds in this tank, but I'm not complaining. All the greens against the Cirrostone and the driftwood and these roots here with the black background, it's working far more than it isn't. All right, everybody, I definitely forgot some stuff, but I just wanted to show off, honestly. My family's out, and I wanted to make a video so they're not all in the other room snickering. And here it is. So tell me what you think. Comments, criticisms, observations. I really, really do want to hear from you. And I hope you subscribe to this channel, and I hope you enjoy this content. I'm going to keep doing it and try to keep getting better. But the important thing is the fish and the plants and the aquarium ecosystem, and not so much my video skills. That being said, thank you for enduring this 18-minute video. I love you. Keep your hands in the tank, and ciao now.